raise some
Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change, time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.
Welcome, Patriots, to another edition of the Raising Cain Show. Tonight on the Raising Cain Show, we have an extraordinary guest, Captain Barry Todd, retired U.S. Army Ranger with 21 years of service, CEO and chairman of the board of Invicta Financial Group. And we're going to get into some really interesting things that have happened in his life, but also stuff that's going on around the world, because I can't think of somebody better to really dig into some of the geopolitical stuff that's happening, and particularly within our military and movements of our troops around the globe. So, but before we do, as you guys know, I'm going to run our commercial break now, get that out of the way, and then that way we can have a unfiltered conversation without any interruption. So we'll be right back after a short break.
Heard of Q broadcast? It's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
Well, welcome back, everybody. Like I said, we've got a great guest with us tonight, Captain Barry Todd, retired U.S. Army Ranger, 21 years of service, CEO and chairman of the board of Invicta Financial Group, president of the National Ranger Memorial Foundation, and best-selling author of Stand Your Ground, One Man's Self-Defense Nightmare. Captain Todd, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm really interested in hearing your story, and also, I think, getting your insights into what's going on right now with the military around the world.
Well, thank you for having me, Nate. This is quite an honor. I appreciate it.
So, let's start by tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, my background is just simple. I was born and raised a military brat. Both my parents were in the military, traveled all over the country in different military locations, and then went in the military myself. Wanted to be an airborne ranger,
Cool.
became one, and retired after 21 years. And then in 1985, I met my beautiful wife. This year, we'll be married 41 years.
Congratulations.
We've been blessed with 3 children and 4 grandchildren. And in 2001, I retired because my son was starting high school, and it was time to just be at home. I'd been playing games running around the world, being a soldier for 21 years, and I decided to stay home. And several years later, I started my Invicta Financial Group. We've been around now since 2008, and now we have offices from Fairfax to Virginia to San Diego, California, and it's God is good, and I don't know what I did in this life, but God is blessing me every day. It's a beautiful thing.
Amen to that. So you, your story, nothing. Even though yes, God is good and He has blessed you. Blessing oftentimes comes with trials in our lives.
Yes.
And those are there to, I think, to test us. They draw us closer to God, and really push us, to overcome those challenges, right? And that's not anything new for somebody that was a 21-year Army Ranger, because that's all about what the Army teaches you to do, is to overcome and to adapt. And so, you had this horrible experience that you went through. Tell us about what started all of that, and give us the story on that.
I'll give you the quick summary first. In 2014, February 28th, my wife and I were out with 4 other retired military couples. Her and I were threatened, and then I was viciously attacked, not by one assailant, but 2, twice, one of them wielding a knife, and I had to use my weapon to defend myself. And then when the police showed up, without any investigation or any due process, they arrested me, took me downtown, and within 4 hours, they charged me with attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. I was shocked, to say the least, and I realized at that point what I thought of our judicial system was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I had a judge that had knowledge of and respect for the law, the process you're going through before you get to that point is appalling at best. It's disgusting what they try to do. They try to break you, but you're not breaking a ranger. That's just not happening.
Right.
And it was that's where we're at. I did 4 grand juries, and finally the judge dismissed the case with prejudice after a preliminary hearing. And we didn't even have to put on any evidence, Nate. That's what was so funny. We didn't have to put on a bit of evidence. He dismissed the case after the prosecution presented his case.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That definitely, a judge to make that kind of call, that's pretty shocking, because it indicates that they basically had a very weak case to begin with. And so typically prosecutors don't want to bring cases that they don't think they can win. So if they brought a case, even if they knew that they couldn't win, it's typically there's something political involved in it. It's like like what they did to Trump, right?
Yeah, or what they did to Daniel Penny. They had the videos for Daniel Penny.
Absolutely.
If they had shown those videos to that grand jury, I guarantee you he would have never been indicted.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Of course, this is not, this kind of thing is not new. And it's in every part of the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens with local police departments. It happens with, the state judicial systems. It also happens at the federal level. I was a victim of, having my home raided after becoming a federal whistleblower with whistleblower protection by the DOJ, IG, but that didn't stop them from, raiding my home, terrorizing my family, and one agent in particular, basically, going on a witch hunt to try to, destroy my life, and ultimately,
Oh yeah.
I think, ending his career.
Imagine that morning. So they bring me in, and I believe in the police. I told them what happened. All right. I was just, hey, this is what happened. And I followed the law. It was strictly self-defense. So, 4 or 5 hours after I'm in there, he comes back in after I've drinking a cup of water, a cup of coffee. I can't remember now. That was a little over 10 years ago. And he says, he goes, hey, read this and sign it. And I said, I told you, I don't have my glasses. What is it? He goes, it's a charge sheet. I said, it's charge sheet. What am I being charged with? And he said to me, you're being charged with attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. And I said, I told you it was strictly self-defense. He said to me, Nate, we have the entire thing on video. And my immediate response, and all this is recorded, you know how those interview rooms are. The whole thing's on recording. I go, great, have you looked at the video? You know what his response to me was?
What?
Not yet.
Oh, geez.
And
wow.
My Ranger NCO days from back in the 80s came out, and I looked at him and I said, oh, you're a real intelligent life form. The oxygen is just flowing to your brain, you stupid da 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 da. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I had the prosecutor on tape in front of my attorney when my attorney was interviewing the lead investigator, and he literally said, it doesn't matter, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And my attorney says, what's that? And he goes, well, your client came back with a gun and he didn't have to. And my attorney said, well, Jim, that was his first name. He goes, well, Jim, he was allowed to. His exact words, Nate, were, I don't care. He could have come back with that gun up his ass. They then go off to the side. My lead investigator overheard the entire conversation, and my attorney, Mike Kimmer, who was the one of the 2 attorneys on the Miranda rights case, he died 2 years ago. Right? He looked right at him and goes, Jim, he followed the law. And he goes, I don't care.
Wow.
They don't care. And that's the same thing that happened to Daniel Penny. That's the same thing that happened to George Allen out here in Pinell County, Arizona. He lost his whole ranch out there 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. Because he was supposedly charged for supposedly killing some illegal alien that was crossing his border on his property, and they said he shot him, yet they had no physical proof.
It's interesting. This would have been 20 years ago. Early in my cybersecurity career, right after I got out of the Army, I was working for a company, ironically in Fairfax County, Virginia. So there's so many weird ties. But I got sent to Fort Huachuca for like a couple of months to work on this project out there.
Yeah.
And, anybody that's ever been to Fort Huachuca knows there's not a whole lot to do there. I mean, it is in the desert. And so I ended
up... beautiful desert.
It is. So I just, it was either, basically sit around bored or do something with my weekends. So I decided to take a concealed carry course that they had there. Arizona was very much a gun-friendly state. In fact, it was the first time I grew up in Southern California, so
oh yeah, you weren't allowed to have a gun.
No, but at the time I was living in Pennsylvania. But what Arizona had was their training program was so good that it was recognized by 14 different states. So I thought this would be great, and so I went and did that. And during the time that I was doing my range training, something very unusual happened. You're focused in on your sight and and your target, and you're shooting. And then all of a sudden I hear the range master, cease fire, cease fire, cease fire. And I was all the way on the left in the very farthest left lane shooting. It's an outdoor range.
Mhm.
And here comes an illegal alien literally stumbling into my lane of fire. And he had been out in the desert. He was delirious, didn't have any water. And so they sat him down, gave him some water and called ICE. And, I think back then they didn't have ICE, but it was, Border Patrol came, picked the guy up. But it was it was a scary situation because I could have shot and killed the guy because I wasn't, I'm not looking to my left, out in the desert. I'm looking at my
Mhm.
target. And so thank God that the range master, was paying attention. Otherwise, they've been charging me probably for something. But
Oh yeah,
it's ridiculous.
it really is. It's beyond comprehension. And I wrote the book, Nate, to bring awareness to all Americans. And then my wife and because I'll tell you, if I had not had my company at the time, I would not have made it through it because I would have not had the resources
Yeah.
to get through it. And so my wife and I, along with our legal team and some other legal professionals, Mark Lamb, I don't know if you've heard of him,
I know, Mark.
Waylon Rawls, we've established a foundation called the Defense Resources Foundation, and the proceeds from the book, and anybody that wants to donate can get a copy of the book. And it's an excellent read. I mean, it's already been a bestseller on Amazon for its genre. But we need to start helping fellow Americans that get into these situations. I wish I had the money at the time to be able to help George Allen. But if we all pool our money together, just like we do when other horrible things happen, we're able to do that. We've created a whole vetting system to make sure it's not somebody that's a crook. It's actually a real self-defense case.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing. And I'll show it to you right here. Stand Your Ground, One Man Self-Defense Nightmare. And you can get it on Amazon, Dorrance, or any of them, or you can just go straight to defenseresourcesfoundation.org and order it, and our team will have it sent out to you within a week.
I'm glad that you bring up the issue with resources, because I think this is the single greatest problem in our system today, is that the government has basically all the taxpayers' resources to go after someone until no end. And
unlimited.
Unlimited. And yet you only have those resources that whatever you can afford. And if you basically, have to go with a public defender, good luck. And I mean, all anyone has to do is see what happened, after January 6th, and all the people who basically did nothing,
Yep.
and yet they were put in prison for ridiculous things that should have been at worst trespassing charges.
Yeah.
And
they were given no bond.
No.
That's the crazy thing about it. They were given no bond. These people in America don't understand. These people were held until Donald Trump got into office without bond.
Yeah.
I have never heard. Now, I had to pay a bond. It was an extremely exorbitant cash only bond, $500,000 cash only, and which I was shocked. It totally wiped out my investment portfolio at the time.
Folks, think about this for a minute. All right. If you're innocent and you have to pay a $500,000 bond, most people aren't going to be able to afford that. Most people probably, they may not even have that in their home. I know there's a lot of people have had to sell off properties and things like that in order to be able to, or take a loan out. Usually it's somebody having to take out, their parents having to take out a loan on the home that they already paid off in order to be able to, give their son a chance to be able to defend himself. But this is what's so unfair about the system, is that that you would end up basically having to spend time in prison, in jail, while you are awaiting trial if you can't afford a bond like that.
That's what I'm saying. If I had not had the money, to fight it, I still, because the whole thing was on video, I still would have been found innocent at some point, but it would have taken me decades.
Yeah.
Instead of less than a decade,
Right.
and
2
years, 26 months and 17 days,
yep.
It would have taken me a decade to clear my name.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then you think about things like think about the person who ends up they end up losing their job. And I'm talking about an innocent person. They end up losing their job. They end up losing their home. They end up losing everything. All of their finances, all of their nest egg, anything that they had, having to go extremely into debt. And then at the end, the case gets dropped. So what? Now you're going to go and have to sue to try to get compensation. I mean, it's just like people don't understand. I've had people ask me all the time, Nate, why didn't you sue the federal government after they did what they did to you? Seriously? Because first of all, it takes money to sue, and I don't want to spend the rest of my my days in depositions and having to testify and relive that horror. And it's crazy. So we do have a problem in our country, and in fact, I would say look, there are people that definitely need to be in prison. People who are a threat to public safety, hardened criminals. But most people.
But you bring up a really good point. I'm sorry, most people. Go ahead.
I was just saying most people. I don't think need to be, especially if it's not if they don't have a history of violent crime, they should be afforded the presumption of innocence.
Oh yeah,
that's the bottom line.
So you just brought up 3 points. The first one you brought up was losing their job.
Yeah,
I'm registered with the federal government, the Securities and Exchange Commission, as the principal of this company. Do you know what I had to do just because I had been charged? I had to relinquish all my licenses.
Wow.
Is that not crazy? And then it had, and then once I got cleared.
And that's before you even, this is not based on you being convicted of anything, just because you were charged. That's ridiculous.
Correct. And then it took me another 6.5 years to get it off my record after I was cleared because of the way the rules, there's no law, it's rules by bureaucrats in DC at these agencies that wrote these. And because I was charged with a felony, doesn't matter whether it was wrongfully or not, but because I was charged with a felony, every single advisor and every single client of our firm had to be notified, and any new client that came on that I had at one point had been charged with attempted murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault. It's abhorrent how the whole system operates. I mean, it is so bad. I'm a decorated vet, okay? 21 years serving my country, never been charged with anything. At the time, my wife owned 6 different rental properties throughout the United States from different places we lived. I owned a national company here. I go to the church. I'm involved in ranger functions and church functions and all that. I'm not going anywhere. And yet they put this huge bond on me. Not only did they do that, they took away my guns. I wasn't allowed to drink alcohol. And then I had to report. They say it's not probation, but it is. But I had to report to a pretrial services officer every 2 weeks. And they gave me the youngest one that just got out of college, and he wanted to try to psychoanalyze me. Okay. And then at least once a month, I would be called and had to go take a drug test unannounced.
Yeah. See, that sounds like that sounds like they've. It does not sound like a presumption of innocence at all. That sounds like you're already guilty. We're going to make you do these things. And if you refuse to do any things or you screw up in any way, then you're going to be charged with something else. And then what happens if you're found innocent? Oh, you're still going to jail for violating these rules or whatever. It's so ridiculous. It is so unconstitutional.
It really is. It really is. And I remember standing there when on the 3rd month of this, going in every 2 weeks, and I met with Diego. Diego was my pretrial services rep, nice young man. And he comes in, he's sitting there, and he says to me, he goes, "Hey, Mr. Todd, how are you doing today? I know this has got to be stressful for you, you know, da 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 da." And I said, "Diego, you do not want to know how I'm doing." And he goes, "Yes, I do, sir. Yes, I do." And he's trying to be sincere. And finally, I looked at him. I said, "Okay, Diego, do you really want to know how I'm doing?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, let me just lay it out for you. First off, I'm a decorated combat vet, disabled veteran." I said, "I did 21 years serving our country around the world in places that would make a billy goat puke. I moved to uh, uh, bum F Yuma, all right, 14 years ago, and raising my family. I have 3 children. I have grandchildren, and my wife and I are attacked. I follow the law, defend myself. I'm wrongfully indicted. All right. And now they've taken my guns, they've taken my alcohol. I have to go unannounced and have a 21-year-old watch my tillywhacker as I pee in a bottle and they take blood. And then I have to come in here and talk with you while you try to psychoanalyze me. Yet I've seen things in this world that you'll never see. So do you really want to know how I'm doing?" And he goes, "No, sir. No, sir. I understand now." I said, "Thank you."
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
It really is. And unfortunately, I don't see anything happening to change any of this in our court systems right now. In fact, in some ways that's worse because innocent guys or just average everyday American citizens, they get treated in this sort of way when an incident like this happens. But yet, you can murder somebody up in New York, and they'll let you out with cashless bail. So you can go commit the crime again. Or if you're an illegal, you get busted committing some crime here, they let you go free. This happened actually in my town of Martinsburg, West Virginia. There was an illegal who had been busted for burglary. He got out. I think he was in Maryland somewhere. They let him go. And he went to the Canadian border, got caught, and they released him there. And then he came back to our town here in West Virginia, and he murdered a woman, a woman who's got a small kid, and then burned her body on a couch out in a field.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and so 3 times that guy could have been put away. But so it seems that the system it's broken clearly. It's like the common sense went out the door, with our judicial system.
Well, what's happened is that over the past, it started many years ago, probably about 50 years ago, when people really wanted to crack down on crime from what was happening in the 60s, the 70s, and going into the 80s with all the drugs. And they put things in place to try to make us safer, all right, and give us more security. But just like our founding father said, that if you want more safety and security, you're going to give up freedom.
Yeah.
And now the laws are overbearing to the point that it almost chokes you out. It's so disgusting. Like, people don't realize something as simple as a seatbelt law. Right?
Yep.
I believe in seatbelts. Do I believe I need a law at 63 years old to tell me I have to wear it? No. And I don't think I should be given a ticket for that.
Yeah.
That's my choice.
Yeah.
The moment they made it a law, you took away my right. And, that's sort of confounded. We had that Janet Napolitano here. She passed the seatbelt law. But in Arizona, you're still allowed to ride a motorcycle without a helmet. Okay. Right. Which I agree with. If you want to be able to ride with now sure. Me, so me, I'm a contrarian. I do the exact opposite of what the law tells me. All right, I purposely don't wear a seatbelt now, but I'll wear a helmet when I'm on my motorcycle,
Yep.
just to piss them off.
Yep. No, it really is. I think as a country, we've lost our way in a lot of these areas of where we have forgotten about. Well, for one, I don't think most Americans even understand their rights. They see rights as something that the government grants, rather than seeing inalienable rights as those things that God gives us. And
That's right.
I think that is a huge distinction that unfortunately children aren't educated that way. The schools aren't teaching that way, and so the problem is, and I would say most of our politicians don't even see it that way. A lot of our politicians, they don't realize that they don't have that worldview, that it is God that grants these inalienable rights to us.
Oh no, they're trying to find all their feelings and their purpose from within. You can't. You can only get your purpose from one place, and that's Him. All
That's
right.
right.
And that's the Holy Trinity. That's my belief. And I tell clients that come into our company, we're a Christian, conservative, veteran-owned company. If you have a problem with that,
Yep.
have a good day. I don't care. the With that though, you bring up a good point though, and I want to add two things to it. All this started back and I would say as early as Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
All right, and moving forward, but the big catapult to this was in the 60s. A guy by the name of Saul Alinsky wrote
Mhm.
a book called Rules for Radicals. And if your listeners have never read that book, or viewers, have them get that book. All right, read it. Find out what these people from the 60s and the 70s, the Hillarys, the Obamas, all of them are looking to do. And the first thing they wanted to do was separate us, and this is all totalitarian regimes, separate us from our history and our God. The second thing you want to do is take over the education system and then the healthcare system. Once you do that, then you can turn it into what they consider their socialist utopia, uh, which is absurd because it can't happen in America. So that's point number one. Point number two, we don't teach our children about the founding fathers anymore. And this is so important. All right. And I'm going to focus on one word here, Nate, and that's honor. All
Mhm.
right. Honor. We don't teach honor anymore. I ask every single young person, I mentor people at my church, young boys that are going into the military, young boys and girls. And I ask this of all the people in my company that work for me, or anybody I come in touch with. Define honor. You know the definition everybody that's under 40 gives me? I would say even under 50. The definition of integrity, doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Mm.
No, you
Yeah.
can do the right thing when no one's looking, but still not have honor.
Yeah.
Honor's what you did, Nate. It's what I did. We did the right thing no matter the cost. It cost you your career, it cost you people coming at you, but you
Mhm.
blew the whistle because you knew what they were doing was wrong. And
Well,
that's
and
tough.
it is, and the other thing too, I think that drives that is, I think you have to believe in something higher than yourself. For me, it was the thought that someday I'm going to stand before my maker,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I want him to say to me, good job. You've done a good job through your life. You did the things that I put you on earth to do. I don't want to hear, well, remember when I sent you to the FBI and I, exposed those things to you and you did nothing about it. That's not what I want to hear.
Exactly.
There's an interesting proverb that says, the beginning of all wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And I do think that is, really what drives honor for me in a lot of ways, is that, um, I want to make my father proud, and I want him to be pleased with my life and not disappointed that I didn't live up to or didn't have the courage to do the right thing. So it's a tough thing.
The reason I'm saying our founding fathers, if we went back and taught history,
Mhm.
it would go back that they would find out that all of our founding fathers believed in God.
Yep.
21 of the original signers of the Declaration of Independence were theologians.
Mhm.
All right. And that's so important to understand that. And the other thing is I remember my mom. My mom worked undercover for the FBI during the under J. Edgar Hoover days from 69 to 72.
Oh, wow.
All right. It was after she came back from Vietnam, but she made me study these documents, and she gave me a dictionary from the late 1700s so I could understand them. And the thing, everybody always wants to go with the preamble to the Declaration of Independence, but that's not the most important sentence. It's not the most important sentence. The last sentence is, and it reads, and for the support of this declaration, we affirm reliance on the protection of divine providence, boom,
Yep.
God, all right? And we mutually pledge each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Mm. Yeah.
That is so important, and we don't teach honor anymore. And I saw it not only here, and that's why I love the military, because the military still tries to teach that. But they've lost their way the past 10 years, because they're 15 years since probably 20 years since I retired, because honor was taught the way I explained it when I left. But now they're saying, well, honor is doing all of these other things. No, it's not.
Yeah.
You may end up having to be disloyal to your commander if he's doing illegal stuff, and you have to do the honorable thing. It might cost you your career.
Yeah, I think that's, so. There's something there that you just said that really hits home with me. I don't think that many people. I don't think people. What's the words I'm trying to say here? I knew when I blew the whistle that there was going to be consequences. I knew that. And in fact, that's why I took such precautions. I didn't delete any evidence that I had removed classified files. I kept allowed all the evidence to be there, but I was very cautious about how I did things. I did it in such a methodical way that I knew it would give me time to prepare for those consequences, because I knew they were coming. And it was a tough choice. It wasn't like I just said, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and everything's going to be great. I was sweating. I mean, I was praying and praying and praying, and I'd talked to my wife about it. I had to prepare her, what could happen, and and so it was a deliberate decision, but a difficult one, but one that I had to make. I think that's the important piece of it, is counting the cost. And that should be, think if people did that with most things that they chose to do in life that are difficult decisions, if they really counted the cost, I think a lot of people probably wouldn't choose to do those things.
But the thing about it, though, is that they should.
Oh yeah,
you run into
they
honor.
should.
You run into honor decisions nearly every day of your life.
Mm-hmm.
All right. When we raise our kids and we have to discipline them, or when they're adults and they're doing bad things, it's your responsibility to hold them accountable. Just because they're adults now does not mean you're still not responsible.
That's true.
And these things are difficult. Matter of fact, I've asked over 30 politicians that I've met and being part of the GOP here in Yuma over the past few years, and I'll tell you right now, I ask every single one of them, if they want my support, define honor for me. The only one that was able to define it absolutely correctly without missing a beat. Mark Lamb.
Yep.
Mark Lamb. He nailed it. He said, doing the right thing no matter the cost. And he said, I can tell you when I did it. I threw my son in my own jail.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not intervene at all. And then he ended up dying a year after he got out.
Oh man.
That's a man of honor.
Yeah.
And that's tough, and I knew I was so appalled. I knew 4 of the police officers on the Yuma police team. My lead investigator and my attorney asked them to come in and review the video after we received it from the police. We had it enhanced by Brian Neumeister. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
Mm-mm.
He was one of your FBI's top video forensics guys, that contractor out here in Phoenix. And he took 160 hours from that restaurant that night, from 16 cameras, 10 hours each camera, and ran it into a video. All 4 of those police officers, one of them was a pastor of my church. One was the brother of the pastor in the church and the person that instructed us in CCW. 2 of them I served with are new from my military days. They were all brought into the conference room. I wasn't there, with my lead investigator and my attorney, and they watched the video and they go, "Oh, wow, this is not what I heard in the media. Oh, wow, oh, he's got a great case here." Every one of them were asked to write a statement that I follow the law. You know what their exact response was?
What?
Can't do it. Can't go against my brothers in blue. I can't handle that kind of heat from my peers.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that is appalling.
You know,
you would allow someone to be tormented when you know they were right.
yeah. I think about it all the time because, you know I'm not the only person that saw the documents that I took out of the FBI, which clearly showed criminal activity.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the only person that saw them because it was in a repository where everybody had access to it, who worked at the FBI, myself included. And so the fact that there were other people that saw that, and when it became apparent that, I mean, I saw it. I heard rumors that they were going to basically drop the case because of the, political reasons. And I said, no, they're not going to do that. And so I sat on it. I didn't do anything about it for a while. I wanted to see. And soon as, Comey came out and basically said, oh yeah, she had all these classified documents on this email server, and but no reasonable prosecutor would bring a case against her. I'm like, oh man, they were right. They're gonna shine over everything that she's done. Even all these other cases they're investigating her on for, for money laundering, public corruption, terrorism financing, all this other stuff. Didn't matter. And that's when I knew I had to do something, because, and I remember, in fact, my wife saying to me, why does it have to be you? And I told her, I said,
the wives always ask that same question.
Of course, and I told her, I said, because if not me, who's going to do it? Do you think any of these guys are going to risk their pensions? Why would they?
You know what? But now you tell her I said this. You're a man of honor, and I respect you for that. It takes men of courage to be able to do that, and most men don't have that kind of courage today. They did a long time ago, but they don't have that kind of courage today. I respect you, Nate. I respect you more than you know. That's unbelievable.
Well, I'm hoping that my hope was that me doing the right thing would lead to justice. It did not. But I do believe that me doing the right thing, when it didn't lead to justice, in fact, when it led to injustice against me, and I was forced, because I had no desire to go public about any of this, but they basically, they backed me into a corner. And I'll never forget the night that I decided that I was going to, stand up and say, I'm not dealing with this. I'm going to go public. And that was when I was talking to my lawyer, and they had just raided. They'd raided me, and the Daily Caller had basically sent out a request, a FOIA request, to the judge that gave the search warrant. And mind you, I had protection under the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act. It took me a year to go through this process. I gave up best paying job I ever had in my life. All of this stuff, put my life at risk, my family at risk, and so the question was, how did a judge allow them to raid a protected whistleblower's home? So they asked that question to the judge through a FOIA request. Was the judge notified that I was a protected whistleblower? A Clinton-appointed judge put a seal on that answer and then sealed her justification for putting a seal on that answer. And that's when I realized just how corrupt the system was. And I called my attorney, and I remember talking to my attorney, and I said, how is this possible? How is it that these people can leak my name to the press, can leak a copy of the search warrant to the press? Because I was in my lawyer's office when he called, when a reporter from the New York Times called him and started reading stuff off of the search warrant. How did he get a copy of the search warrant? So it was crazy. So I was like, this whole damn system's corrupt. And I said, what am I supposed to do? And he said, well, you have two choices. He said, you can either curl up in a ball, like a sack of potatoes, and let them kick you.
There you go.
Or you can stand up and poke the bear. And he says, the choice is yours. And he says, and I'll be honest, if you poke the bear, it might not go well. He said, but, you got to make that decision for yourself. And I determined that night I was not going to take it lying down.
You should have gone to Ranger School.
You're right. I should have. And you know what? No joke. When I went through, I did my basic training at Fort Jackson, and they had the back then. I don't know if they still do it, but at that time, I think we had 60 pop-up targets, right, at different ranges. I think all the way to 300 and all the way up to 15, at various spots, and they would pop up. I hit every single damn one except for one. The only reason I missed that one was when I was laying in prone position, and there was a black widow like down in a hole right next to my hand. And I looked down, and it caught me off guard. I probably had hit every target on that, but I missed one. So I did make expert marksman, but you're right. I should have.
Because if it hadn't been for my Ranger training, I probably would have never made it through that. My faith in God, my support of my family, friends, and my fellow Rangers. But the Ranger training I went through gave me the mental discipline, fortitude, and just downright grit to push through it. It's
that's a good point. The Army, when I was, I wasn't in combat arms. I was in signal school, is where I went, and I ended up doing a tour in Korea, for a year, and then I was at Side R. So when
were you in Korea?
1998.
Oh, okay.
I was at Camp Carroll, and did my year term unaccompanied tour there. But
I left in 93.
Oh wow,
it was my last time I was there.
Yeah, it's funny. I look back, and the experiences I had in the military, some of them were great, some of them were terrible. But the one thing that I will say is it taught me discipline, and it taught me that the biggest thing that holds any human being back is your own mind.
Yep.
And I'll never forget when I saw that. It was in basic. There's a reason they do things that they do. The people. I remember when we went on our first run, and I was not in the best shape. I was like one of the older guys. I think I was 24 when I joined. I already had a kid. Actually, I had one kid, one on the way. So it's like, I better join now, or I'm not going to be able to join, because they had a limitation of how many kids you have. And so I was like, so I ended up joining, and I'll never forget, man, that first run. And I was just like, dude, there's no way I can run any further. But there was no way I was going to drop out. Because
exactly,
and so they just kept pushing us and kept pushing us and kept pushing. And then before you know it, you get the second win, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, I've never ran this far before. How in the heck am I still going? Yeah. And it's because it teaches you to overcome, this mental block that tells you can only do so much. In the same respect, I'll never forget when I got orders for Korea. It was a 1-year unaccompanied tour, and I thought, how am I going to live, without my family, without my wife for a year? That's just crazy. And it was hard, and it was not easy, and it was definitely trying on our marriage. But I will tell you this, that, my wife and I, we've been married now for, for 31 years.
Congratulations.
It'll be 31 this May. And I look back and I see that time in the Army, which was really difficult on our marriage, but we made it through it. That I think that, part of the reason we made it through very difficult, like even the hardest time was the the FBI whistleblower time. And what got us through that was our faith in God and our experiences that we overcame when I was in the military. We knew that, hey, look, if we could survive that, we can survive this. So
yeah. I got there in 91, the fall of 91, and General Lloyd handpicked me to go in and clean up the LURS unit,
the
Ranger unit, because I was a Mustang.
Okay.
I'd gone from enlisted officer, and I knew him from before, and he was the assistant division commander, and he wrote a personal letter to my wife saying he was involuntarily extending me. So I did 19 months unaccompanied.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was good. I wouldn't have traded for the world. It's a beautiful thing. Matter of fact, I just submitted paperwork trying to get everybody that served up till February of 1994 combat recognition, not for money, but for the recognition that they deserve, because we controlled that DMZ until February of 94. That's when we turned it over to the Rock Army. And we lost 92 soldiers over that 40 years in that DMZ. We had
a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, we had over 4,400 infiltrations and engagements by the North Koreans over that 40 years. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
And due to the politics, the Department of Defense at that time, they didn't want us to know that we were still in an armed conflict. So nobody ever got recognition for it.
I got a son right now who's over there. And it's interesting, he followed in almost like an exact same footsteps. He went, except he was a satellite operator, but he ended up going to Fort Jackson, went to Fort Gordon, just like I did, and then they sent him to Fort Detrick, and then from there he's now in Korea, and but I went to Korea first and then went to Fort Detrick, so it's really funny. But I think he's going to be a lifer. That's where him and I are different. He's definitely. He just got a opportunity.
Well, look at who he's working for now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it was a different story in the last administration, but yeah, what a time to be in.
I was at the Pentagon visiting some people there, and I told them, I said, pass a message to the Secretary of War. I will come and serve for no pay. I have more than enough money. I'm not worried about the money. Just put me back in the fight. I will be there tomorrow.
Well, that's a good this is a good transition, because I did want to ask you about some other things that are going on right now, right? You have the one of the things that a lot of people don't understand how the military works. I've been fortunate to, even after I got out of the military, I worked for the military. I was a Navy civilian for about 9 years, and then a Marine civilian, and I've also worked as a contractor as well. But my time working with the Navy, I worked in the Fleet Battle Lab, and I worked in modeling simulation and seeing all of the war games being played out and everything. And seeing what we're seeing right now going on with the carrier strike fleets and stuff like that going out to the Straits of Hormuz and basically surrounding Iran. It seems to me like there's some things that are happening there that I think are preparing us for I think what is an inevitability, which is that we've got to remove this this corrupt regime that has basically been the lead sponsor of terror throughout the world. And and people don't realize that it's not just a matter of, oh, we don't like these guys, or they're doing things to a lot of people get upset when we get involved in things that they feel is not in part of our national interest. But in this case, these guys have been harassing our ships because they are funding the Houthis down in Yemen, who've been firing on our ships, as they're, going through that area. They've also harassed our military operations in international waters, off the coast of Iran, and through the Straits of Hormuz and all of that. And so there's a lot that's been going on that I don't think people realize that there's been a lot of provocation,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting bolder. Every time we don't do something, or we don't retaliate against one of their attacks, they flew drones directly at one of our, I think it was the USS Abraham Lincoln, which we shot down. And so there's been, a lot of, remember they took control of, one of our naval boats. So this was, a while back. I think it was during it was maybe during the Obama administration, but they captured our Navy sailors. There's been all kinds of stuff that's happened over the years, and we've just kind of allowed it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not for war. I'm not for us, especially getting into a protracted war. But I do see how, if you were just purely looking at it from a strategic standpoint, there would be no better time than now. If you really wanted to take out, this corrupt, the Iranian, government and the Ayatollah
regime, yeah,
that now would be the time, because they are weakened. The people are ready, to stand up, I think, and have their own democratic government. And I think that there's enough surrounding nations, within an Arab alliance, I think, to support it. I'm curious from your standpoint, as somebody who actually was involved in combat operations, what are your thoughts on that? And we're just talking purely, we're not getting into the politics necessarily of, should we or should we not, but just from a tactics standpoint, what do you see going on with this buildup? Do you think that we're getting ready for, for some sort of operation in Iran?
Yes. That being said, it's not going to be protracted, not with this president. This president understands that war, and this is an old saying that we had to learn as officers, war is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral being, which thinks nothing is worth war, is much worse. A man who has nothing for which he is willing to fight will never be free unless kept so by the exertions of better men. All right. The reason I'm saying that quote here this evening on to your viewers is because they need to understand this president is like earlier presidents from the 19th century, the 18th century. He knows we have the capabilities to take any nation out in this world without a protracted war. But since Truman took office, he changed the Department of War to Department of Defense. It's no longer about winning the wars, and it actually probably started in World War II because they kept holding Patton back because we had to appease the British. We had to appease the Russians. I'm not into appeasement, okay?
Yeah.
If we're going to war, I'm not worried about collateral damage against their artifacts. I'm not worried about collateral damage against their children. If you are, then and you're a Christian, you need to go back and read 1st and 2nd Kings, okay? Because when God went to war, all right, there was nothing left.
Yeah.
All right. That's number one. Number two, you don't want their kids coming back. And that's what keeps happening. Mm-hmm. We keep messing around with these people. And if you think that Muslims, all right, people that follow Sharia law, all right, can live in the United States of America, you are sorely losing your mind. I've read the Quran. Yeah. I've read Sharia law. And I'm telling you now, that is an impossibility. Their politics is their religion. Their religion is their politics.
It's not just religion for them. It is politics for them. It is worldview. It is wholly inconsistent with the Constitution of the
Yeah.
United States,
And
and the idea that we would allow for refugees
but
to come to
let's
this country from, from a place like that is crazy.
yeah, but let's just think about this a second. Do
Yeah.
your listeners even know what Sharia law reads? All right, because I can tell you very briefly. It allows you to lie, cheat, steal, rape,
Right.
and murder to advance the kingdom of Allah. It's that freaking simple. All right. Do
Yeah.
not think that they're doing this. When they come out and say, "Oh, we're for peace," they're lying.
Yeah.
Okay. It just is what it is. And you got to understand something. Christianity spread across the world over 2,000 years ago because of love. All
Yeah.
right. Because of joy. 600 years later, Muslim theology was created through Allah and all that. And then their religion didn't spread by that. Their religion spread by the point of the spear.
the sword,
If you
yeah.
go back and read the history of Iran, it was a beautiful country prior to 1978. It was a beautiful country.
Yeah, it was Western.
Yeah, it was westernized. Women were going to school, getting college degrees, and then the Ayatollahs took over, and it just went nuts. And it's been a crap hole ever since.
What's
So
interesting is actually my wife actually told me there was a documentary that they were just my wife and my mother actually watched together about the fall of of Iran to the Islamic Republic. And
Mhm.
what's interesting that came out in that was that they rigged the elections,
Yeah.
just like we've seen people try to do in our own country.
Oh, they have done it.
Yep.
They have
So-
done it.
so
That's
thi-
why
this
they
is-
don't want ID cards.
Well, exactly. I mean, you
I mean,
cannot
thi-
make any kind of justifiable excuse. When you're not even allowed to go buy a beer, without an ID. You can't get a tattoo without an ID. You can't drive a car without an
Yeah.
ID. But yet
This-
you
this
can
is-
go and vote in this country, and you don't have to prove citizenship.
Yeah,
In
well,
fact,
it's
in
it's
states
horse
like
hockey.
California,
It-
it's illegal to even ask.
And see, the rest of America's only woke up in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
This has been going on since I've lived here when I retired in 2001. You're going to love this. Yuma, Arizona has 100,000 people. We're about 10 miles north of the Mexican border. Right below me, south of here, all right, is San Luis, Arizona, a town of about 10,000 people. Every morning, Monday through Friday, there are 13 to 1,400 unaccompanied minors that come across the border to go to San Luis High School, making it the second largest high school in the state of Arizona.
Yep.
Unaccompanied minors, and you want to know why? Because they were anchor babies. None of their parents, they came over here illegally, they've been kicked out, and now those kids walk across. Now, you ask one parent out there, would you allow your child to cross an international border unaccompanied?
No way.
It just makes no sense. The lack
Yeah.
of common sense here is just beyond comprehension. I actually have been working with a team that helps a lot of these kids down here that are kidnapped by the cartels and sold into sex slaves and all. That's why I know this. I've been down there doing surveillance with those guys and watching the border. It's absolutely absurd. And now I'm going to be talking to. We're starting to write letters and talk to them, because all you have to do, all President Trump has to do is sign an executive order saying from now on, no unaccompanied minors can cross the border. They have to have a guardian or parent with them. That would come to an end like that. And the cartels are using them. Guess where the most poorest place on the border is now?
Where's that at?
Ports of entry. Because
Yeah.
there's so many unaccompanied minors coming through, and guess where all the drugs are? And they don't scan them.
Yeah.
They do not scan them. Oh, how you doing? I'm going to school. Then they get into the school, they freaking drop off their drugs, and if they don't, their parents and their family is going to be killed down in Mexico.
Mm.
But if you
Yeah.
cut off and they can't come in here, then they're not going to kill the parents because they can't come in.
Yeah. No, I mean it's crazy the mentality that exists. Like there used to be a time where the Democrats would at least lie, and try to pretend that they cared about, you know, keeping the borders secured. I mean, there's videos of well, there's a picture of
That's a
Obama.
different time, though. That was a
Yeah.
different time.
Well, there's
I
a
mean,
picture of Obama giving a medal, to Tom Homan. So
oh, I
it,
know.
it's
I know.
hilarious. And then they want to demonize him, and they want to demonize Republicans for wanting to, keep our country secure. But yet they lock their doors at night. They live in their gated communities.
I had a friend of mine. I put on there. They on Facebook. I never post on Facebook except for my daily verses and stuff on my Stand Your Ground website and on my personal. But this buddy of mine put a picture up there with this Muslim woman in New York that had the full face covering. It was her official photo. She's running for elected office, and she just switched from Democrat to a Republican. And he asked the question, is this a rouge? I said, come on, brother. You know it's a lie. And I quoted Sharia law. So I had another friend who's a Democrat who put on there, this is where we part ways on social media. Why? Because I spoke the truth.
Yeah.
I didn't lie. I can take you to their Bible and show you where it says it.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like it's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it really is. It's like we're living in a world where, like what the Bible talks about that, would be coming, right? Where people call what is good evil and what is evil good.
Yep.
And that is, I think, definitely, part of the problem. One of the things that I've been paying a lot of attention to, and is this, this issue of election integrity. That's something that I've worked on. I've been involved in some investigations into it, and when you look at what's happening right now, it seems like there's finally some movement, some actual justice coming in regards to what you see happening down in Georgia and now in Maricopa County.
Oh yeah.
So I actually feel pretty hopeful, and I've seen this. I think when you consider the fact that you've got Trump is working very quickly to try to remove as many of these criminal aliens as they can out of this country. They are trying to get a handle on election issues. I think it's clear that he understands that the biggest threat, I think, to this nation is internally, and that it would be another stolen election. And so
Yep.
I think Trump's doing everything he can to prevent that from happening again.
Yeah, and I think it's going to win. I mean, it's just like the birthright citizenship. If
Yeah.
you go back and read the amendments when they were passed in 1865 and 1866 and 1867, you will, and you listen and you read the arguments from the different parties within the Congress and all that. It was 110% for the slaves.
Yep.
It never had it never meant for people to jump over the border in Yuma, Arizona and have a baby, and now all of a sudden they get a free ride here. And see, what people don't understand, because my wife and I just found out about our third child because she was born before I met my wife.
Mhm.
And so this is a great thing. And she's German. And I'm going through the process of just starting it, of trying to figure out how to get her American citizenship, her or my grandchildren. And I found out that, did you know, and you probably knew this, that all foreigners that come into the country, legal or illegally, sign a pledge that they are not going to, or that they have enough to sustain themselves.
Yeah.
Unless they're asking for protection. Now, it's not a pledge that, and they're not, the pledge says we have enough to sustain ourselves and we're not going to go on the government dole. Well, what these people have been doing is they've been going to the blue states or the democratically run states where they don't ask if you're an American citizen or not. They've gotten on Section 8 housing. And for your listeners who don't know what Section 8 housing is, Section 8 housing deals with getting government assistance on your home. And these big investment companies have gone out here. They bought up about 7 to 8% of all the homes in the United States. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot. Well, that's about 11 million homes. And it's in all the C and D neighborhoods because they classify neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have all the Section 8 housing. So they go in to the housing office. They say, I can't afford my rent. They do a scrub and what their earnings are, look at their pay statements, and they don't ask them if they're an American citizen. And they say, okay, you qualify. The federal government then pays 90% of the rent, and they only pay 10%. Then they get on SNAP, all right, which used to be called food stamps. And then they turn around and get on the medical side, Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act. And so we're just blowing money out, but they're not putting anything into that pot.
Yeah.
Because nobody that has a married couple with two that make below 50,000 doesn't pay taxes anyway.
Yep. Well, it's interesting because back in probably this would have been like in when was it? Like 2004, 2003, that time period. I was just kind of like very frustrated with the Republican Party at the time, and I ended up, for a short period of time, changing parties to the Libertarian Party, because in principle, I agreed with most of everything that they agreed on. Basically, maximize liberty, shrink the size of the government, get the government out of our business. But there was one policy that drove me back to the Republican Party, and that was that at the time, Libertarian Party was very much for open borders.
Oh yeah, they still are.
And I was like, there's no freaking way. Because the way I looked at it was like this, that basically, if, and by the way, even if I believed in open border, even if anybody believes in open borders, you got to believe that there's got to be a way of making sure that people that, even if you believe that anybody should be able to apply to come to our country, you have to believe that there's got to be a regular process so that you don't have criminals coming here and you don't have disease coming into our country. Even when we were bringing lots of people over during mass, migration periods through Ellis Island, we still make sure that these people were not diseased before they came into our country.
Correct.
And the thing is that, but the problem is that while that may have worked and that may have been okay, 100 years ago in our country, before the massive welfare state that we've created existed, that is not sustainable in a country like ours that has such a massive welfare state, because guaranteed those people will come here and they will get on the dole and they will stay on the dole, a good large majority of them.
Right.
I want to address something real quick here. A couple of comments that I've been kind of following the comments, and a couple of them that I want to just address real quick here. One of them was by Diddy Girl that I thought was really interesting. Right before went back when we were talking about the issue of freedom and whether or not kids today even understand that. She had mentioned, I'll bring up her comment here. She says she works with a lot of young girls and that they have no idea about freedom, and that they're also okay with being spied on everywhere you go. That is absolutely a serious problem today that, I think you and I are from a generation where we didn't grow up with these, right? We didn't have these cell phones everywhere we went. We weren't, posting everything on social media, and the world has changed without a doubt. But I have been speaking up about this issue. I've been very concerned about it. While I understand how powerful the tools are that our government uses to find, terrorists and to find, even some of these really bad illegals, like you had mentioned early on, you talked about, I think you were paraphrasing a quote from Benjamin Franklin, which is that he that is willing to give up liberty for, give up liberty for security deserves neither. And I
Correct.
really do believe that we are in a place where people have come to that place where they're willing to give up liberty for the sake of security. But the problem is, and while that's fine when your government is not evil and not doing evil things, all it takes is one tyrant, and now they have all the tools they need to track down
Yep.
anybody that they want who politically opposes them. And all, and it's not like we haven't had an example of that. January 6th is a perfect example of that. How do you
Yep.
think they found all those people who were there? Many of them, masked because it was cold or because of, COVID and whatnot. How do you think all of those people were found and tracked down and, by the FBI, many of who did nothing?
Cell phones.
That's right. Cell phones. And
Yeah,
also too, you had Bank
you
of
know what's
America
funny?
willing to give away, all the people in DC who used their cards without a warrant, by the way.
Going back to the election side, though, I went to the premiere of 2000 Mules. They used the exact same technology to prove that the voter fraud in all the major cities that flipped late into the night by following cell phone traffic. You had people that were carrying different ballots, and they got them on camera going to 26 boxes in one night, right? And then they got them on camera, and then every box they would go to, they'd pull off their rubber gloves after they put these dozen ballots in there, and they throw the plastic gloves in the garbage can and go to the next one. And and then they denied that technology is not advanced enough yet. But you just arrested all the J6ers.
That's right. That's right. I want to, and on that note of election integrity, there's another quote that I want to bring up, and this is one of my all time, always comes on, always is on the show in the chat. Troll. I got to bring up this comment because I got to speak to this, and I think this is important. So Troll brought up, but illegals voting isn't a factor. Even Heritage Foundation couldn't prove illegals voted to any effect, like 2%. Now, I agree that this isn't about illegal aliens actually voting. They're not going down and voting. Listen, and I can speak to this with some level of authority because I've been involved in multiple investigations into this. But here's the problem, and there really is a conspiracy that has been going on for a while now. The first thing that happened was a bill was passed in Congress under a Democrat, under the Democrats when they had control, that basically made it a law that every state had to allow or had to make registering to vote available at their DMVs. That was the first thing that happened. The next thing that happened was basically all of your blue states started making it possible for illegal aliens to come and get a driver's license. Now, this has happened in almost every blue state. Almost every blue state has this law that allows illegal aliens to come get their driver's license. And while they're there, right on the driver's license form is somewhere in there for them to register to vote. Now, if they don't necessarily understand what they're doing, they might just fill that out. That doesn't mean they're going to go vote. And I would say the majority of them don't. But here's the problem. The election is not getting stolen by illegals themselves coming to vote. It's being stolen by illegal votes from straw voters, meaning fake names or illegal aliens' names that are on the voting rolls. And I've seen this in multiple places. And then what happens is they counterfeit ballots. And through schemes, basically the way that the elections have always been stolen is through ballot stuffing. That is the way it has always been done. And now with these mail-in ballots and with universal absentee ballots and all of that, that is what leads to these types of things. And this is what we've been finding. This is what they found down in Georgia. It's what we found in Maricopa County. It's what we found everywhere. And the problem with it is that if you don't have clean voter rolls, then no amount of recounts in the world is ever going to detect a stolen election, because you have to have clean voter rolls from the get-go. Because otherwise, so if you have a combination of dirty voting rolls where you have a lot of, and it's probably made up of more than just illegals, but you've got illegals in there, you've got dead people in there, you've got fake people in there, you got people that live out of state in there, you got all kinds of things in there. So that voter roll being corrupted is the starting point. The next thing that happens is they go and they counterfeit ballots, and then they drop those off, at these, at these drop boxes where this is the other thing that's crazy. You can look. I've done the research on this. In almost, I would say, probably more than half of the blue states. Well, first of all, I've got a map that I've mapped out, and I have this, and I've done a show on it before. But basically, it's all blue states where you see these laws that don't allow you to put cameras up near the drop boxes. So they don't want cameras up by the drop boxes. Why?
No, they don't.
It's
It-
also blue states that
Yep.
allow for illegals to get driver's license. It's blue states that allow for drop boxes to be used, and for people to be able to drop off ballots for other people on their behalf. That's all blue states. There's only one reason why they are the ones who have all of these weird rules, which are designed for cheating, because they
Yes.
cheat. That's why.
And if you watch 2,000 Mules, you'll track how they flipped the election that night.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sitting in my living room with a mathematician, all right, in 2020, one of the most brilliant men I've ever met in my life, Howard Barker. I mean, his mind is sharp as a tack, and he's sitting there watching the election broad. We're toasting. Trump's going to win. This thing's blowing out. Then we're sitting there 30 minutes later, and the numbers are reversing.
Yeah.
And he starts going back, and we all picked different states. It was mathematically impossible.
Yeah.
For
Now,
what happened that night.
Yep. Now, I will say, in all the investigations that I have done personally, I have yet to see evidence that the election, was stolen through somebody hacking into the machines and all of that. I'm not saying that that's not the case. I'm just saying I haven't seen the evidence.
It was a ballot stuffing.
But I have absolutely seen the evidence of counterfeit ballots and mass. And I'm not talking about, a little bit in one precinct. No, I'm talking about truckloads of ballots. I interviewed the truck driver that went from Bethpage, New York, carrying 100,000 ballots across the border into Pennsylvania, and then that truck disappeared. That he was told to drop his trailer, and that trailer disappeared. Look, folks, this was, by the way, I was involved with bringing in investigators to investigate that, and what was found out was that there was a print shop about 7 miles outside of Bethpage that was likely the place that was counterfeiting these ballots. And there was another state, Michigan, that had a subsidiary of a company that was also the parent company of this other one, that was also suspected of doing the same thing in another state. So I do believe that there was a much bigger thing. And by the way, Bill Barr knew about all of this. So I was on a phone call where Bill Barr and the FBI was brought in, the Postmaster General of New York, and because there's about, I think they estimated about 80, I want to say it was about about $8 million worth of stolen postage. And so they were investigating this, and for whatever reason, when Bill Barr was, he was all supposedly setting up some task force. It was going to have John Durham Jr., who was I think Southern District of New York at the time, or Eastern District of New York. And they basically shut this thing down. Bill Barr goes out in front of the AP, and he says, I've seen no evidence of widespread election fraud. And then, he basically shuts everything down. It made no sense at all. And I
think they got to him.
I do too.
I think they got to him. And the it happens, but the reality is that we know how it was stolen. If you watch the movie 2,000 Mules, all you have to do is go track those cell phones. All the evidence was turned over to them. And I can tell you, here in Yuma County, our sheriff didn't mess around. He had 13 to 16 indictments within a matter of months. The mayor of San Luis was caught on video doing that fake ballot stuff. She actually went to jail and was thrown out of office. So there's a lot of it going on. Your reviewer is correct, but either way, you don't want any openings. You want to close all doors. And the other thing I would recommend, not only having IDs, but also, just like our paper, on our money. Okay, you take our paper on our money. All right, this is a specific kind of paper. You can't get it anywhere else. All right, do the same thing with our ballots because they're more important than that damn money in my pocket. Right.
Yeah.
And then you watermark them so they can't be. Uh,
Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be done, and I'll tell you, you know, there are the troll to your point. Yes, there's a lot of folks within the Catholics, you know, like Catholic Charities. One of the biggest ones involved in a lot of this illegal illegal immigration because they've basically provided, you know, lawyers to essentially help these people know how to, you know, get around the laws and how to find loopholes and lie to be able to claim asylum claims. So yeah, this is not, it's not just purely a Democrat problem. It's an ideological problem with people who are socialists, really. People who are, you know, far left socialists. Look, there are people within the Christian church that are that way. There are, you know, Methodist, you know, churches that I don't believe, quite honestly, are orthodox in their faith at all. You know, they basically, you know, promote you know, everything that goes against what, you know, they don't see the Bible as, I don't believe they see it as God's word because they don't live that way. But there is a lot of this that's going on. I have people who, you know, I used to call friends, you know, that are very much, I think, have been sucked into this ideology that our country should not have laws, you know, against illegal immigration. And I don't know, you know, it's like you can't reason with them because it's all
no,
emotionally driven.
that,
It's not
and
driven like no other country on the face of the planet allows you to just walk across the border without
nope,
getting
they
arrested.
don't.
In fact, do you remember? I think his name was, oh gosh, what was it? There was a Marine who crossed over the border in Mexico
Yep.
and he got thrown in prison. And it took a president of the United States basically to try to get him released.
Yep.
Mexico put him in prison for accidentally crossing the border into Mexico.
The you made up a good point though. Most people in this country, and a big problem of this is on both sides. They keep calling us a democracy.
Yeah, you're right.
We are not a democracy. We're a
Yeah.
republic. And for your listeners out there, republic is a Latin word. R-E, in the word republic means the thing. Public means public. The public thing, the law. Whatever the law reads, that's what you're supposed to follow. And the great thing about our Constitution, and the reason it's now the oldest governing document in the world, all right, all the other countries have been around longer than ours, but ours is now the oldest governing document. And it's for one reason only, and it's how our founding fathers foresaw, and they wrote it so simply differently. Instead of telling the government what it can do, it tells the government what it cannot do.
Yeah, negative rights. Yeah, this was
Correct.
something that you know, Thomas Jefferson. I really do believe, you know, that he was a genius. I mean, he was very much involved in that. In fact, he didn't even want a Bill of Rights because he felt like there would be people who would abuse that and say, well, if it's not written in the Bill of Rights, then they'll just assume that, you know, the government will assume that they have that right. But he eventually, you know, agreed to, you know, the initial set of Bill of Rights, but he wrote it in such a way that it was written as negative rights. Basically,
Correct.
the government does not have the right because, you know, the idea. First of all, these founders they understood during that time. They saw what a true democracy was because you had a true democracy in France, and what was going on there was basically the tyranny of the majority.
Yep.
You had mob rule. You had people being executed without trial. You know, basically being you know, remember this is where they came up with the
Children
guillotine.
being taken.
Yep. So there was a lot of terrible things I think going on in the world, and they saw it firsthand.
And they also knew their history. All you know,
They did.
democracy had been tracked for thousands of years. It was a big pillar in the Greek states back in their early Greece.
Yeah. I think one of the things that Thomas, you know, Thomas Jefferson spoke about was also that he was very, very familiar, and most of the founders, I think, were familiar with the writings of John Locke. and who I think really talked a lot about the rights of man. But there's a lot of that understanding of that concept of natural law, they called it, which really is the idea that we have God-given rights. It's built into us. It's in our nature. Any good philosopher has been able to uncover that. Like even C.S. Lewis, I think, talks about that in his book. Mere Christianity. He gets into talking about one of my favorite parts in the book is he talks about how everybody understands right from wrong. We all know it. It's like a universal thing. There's some things that there's some gray area depending on your culture or whatever, but we all understand right from wrong in the sense that if somebody, and he gives an example, if you had an orange and somebody stole a piece of that orange, or took it from you, you would know that's wrong. You would say, hey, you took something that was of mine. Or if somebody cut in front of you in a line, you would know that's wrong. So this is the problem, is that we have stopped looking at the truth. I think we've gotten away from critical thinking and teaching our kids, critical thinking. Instead, they're teaching them critical theory, which is the exact opposite of critical thinking. And it's this intersectionalism crap that has basically polluted the minds of many of our youth today. And it's being in our schools have turned into indoctrination camps rather than schools of education, and that is, I think, the problem. I think that has a lot to do with where we are today. My hope is that what we're seeing, which, to be honest with you, it scares the hell out of me when I see just how uneducated people are today, especially our youth. My hope is that once they become tax-paying Americans and they have independence and they have children, and that has always been the thing, right? That has changed people. They're liberal when they're young, and then when they get older, they become more conservative, right?
Winston Churchill.
Right. But I don't know. I mean, I hope that's the case. I hope that that's what happens, but we'll see. I don't know. I pray for our nation.
I'll tell you, I am so impressed with how God's moving in our country right now, and all I can do is just keep pushing with him.
And I agree. I think that is the only hope for our nation is, because it's the center of all truth, right? Is first and foremost the acknowledgement of God. Even if you don't understand what that is, it takes humility to acknowledge that there is something higher than us. And so that's the first step in somebody coming to the truth. If you can't acknowledge that something is higher than yourself, well, then you're a narcissist, is what you are. And
and you're trying to find your everything in yourself instead of looking to higher authority. And that's why the Bible's always so great. I mean, you start out with the 10 Commandments and you just go from there, and learn to walk in faith. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep. Well, we've had a great conversation, and I definitely would love to have you back on again. And this just being able to get into just all sorts of topics it's fun. But it's getting late, and it is still Valentine's Day, so I'd like to at least spend a little time with my wife tonight. So I'm going to go ahead.
I spent mine earlier today.
I did too.
Because of this interview.
I don't want my wife to go to bed by herself on Valentine's night. So
I understand.
but it has been great having you on. Barry, where can people follow you? Are you on social media?
Yes, I am. You can go to Stand Ground Book on Facebook, and on Twitter, or I guess it's called X now, Instagram, True Social, or LinkedIn. And please don't forget to go and donate and get yourself a book. $25 will get you a book. If you donate more, you can get an autographed copy. And if anybody that wants to donate more, please help us to help other Americans that have been wrongfully indicted. God bless you, and thank you for having me on, Nate.
Absolutely. And finally, I always like to ask my guests, we've talked about a lot of different things, but what is the thing that you want people to take away from our conversation more than anything?
Well, we covered so many topics
I
tonight.
know.
So this is going to take a minute then. All
Okay.
right. Can
All
I
right.
have a minute?
Yes,
All
you
right.
can.
The first one is that on the self-defense side, uh, there's four things that are so important about this. The lessons that I learned. Number one was keep my faith in God. That's paramount and most important. Number two, get some type of coverage if you're going to do self-defense. Right to Bear
Mm,
is now an association. They cover 100% of your criminal case. They don't cover the civil side. You don't need the civil side if you have homeowners or renters insurance. That will cover that side. Most people don't know that about your homeowners and renters insurance. It covers you anywhere in the world except when you're driving a car. Your liability protection there. Number two is don't say anything to the police.
yeah.
Keep your mouth closed. Okay. I was very naive. I
Yeah,
said,
I
I'm
learned that.
innocent. I'll go ahead and tell them
I
everything
double
that happened.
that.
Keep
I
your mouth
second
shut.
that. You don't say anything without a
All right.
lawyer. Yeah.
I didn't say anything bad. I didn't say anything wrong. It's just that,
Yeah.
it just didn't work out. And then last but not least, if you find yourself in a position on the legal side like I did, remember, your attorney works for you.
That's
All
right.
right. You have to dive into the law, get the laws that he's talking about, get the dictionaries, read about them, understand them. Because when you read my book, because it is like a Perry Mason book, all right, or Matlock, whatever one you want to talk about. It really is. That's what made it a bestseller. The one of the things that happened to me in there was my attorney was wrong about something, and
Mm.
I almost got to the point of firing him because he wasn't listening to me. And then he called me 24 hours after he investigated what I said, apologized to me, and waived my next quarterly fee, which was 25,000 a quarter for his services. So uh, you got to remember you are in charge of your legal team. Then on on the election side, the elections were stolen, but it's all, what Nate was saying is it's not one thing, it's a multitude of things that's causing these elections to be stolen, because most Americans, I believe, have common sense. I believe 80 to 75% of them do. And then the other thing it affects is the electoral college and how many states get seats.
Absolutely.
I can tell you right
Yeah,
now,
we didn't even cover
without
that,
a
and you're
doubt,
absolutely right.
California has at least 15 million illegals that's allowing them to keep the number of congressional seats, because I have
Yeah.
hundreds of clients in California with my company, and I can tell you that over 50% of them moved out in the last 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a very good point. And just to comment on that real quickly, this is why it is so important that Congress needs to act to fix this problem with the way that censuses are taken. Right? They count everybody, regardless of whether they are citizens or not, and that gives unequal representation to people who are not legally here in this
It,
country.
and you can go back to when the Constitution was written, when they had the 2/3 power that gave the southern states the exact same power.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and allowed them to keep slavery in place for as long as they did have it in place, because most of the states were trying to get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yep.
And then on the world issues, I'm not as concerned as I was before. My son's a disabled combat vet, 100% disabled, was wounded in Iraq in 2009, retired in 2011. My daughter's been in for 14 years, and that's because of the leadership we have. We're not going to go in with any protracted war. This man's going to go in, they're going to kick butt, they're going to take names, and then get out. And if there's collateral damage, so be it. They're going to try to minimize it, but at the same time, they're not going to cry or make somebody lose their career because some church got blown up or because this family died. It just is what it is. That's part of war.
I think the only challenge that the Trump administration has in regards to Iran versus, say, Venezuela is they had a legal indictment, and so they were able to go do a military operation in Venezuela to, basically capture a criminal. And so, regardless of how ridiculous that may sound to some, it was a legal process that they used to go in there. And I think it's why, even though the left and even some on the right, decried, oh, you should have to come to Congress and all of that. No, he didn't have to, because he was essentially executing the law. In fact, the DEA were basically the ones that were there, on site, and you had, of course, Delta Force, helping them. But the issue with Iran is going to be a little different. There's going to have to be some sort of provocation, and there's been plenty already. There'll have to be some, imminent threat or something that they're going to have to use as justification. And maybe their goal is just to sit there and enforce the embargo until that government collapses. That would be fine by me. But we'll see what happens. But I do agree. I think if Trump were to go in right now, I think it would be over very quickly. And I think,
I think it's going to. I think they're positioning themselves to do it, because they do have the authority under the Wars Powers Act to defend American property and people.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
and so if they're sending drones into ships, that's provocation enough. No matter whether it was shot down, it doesn't matter. All right. The moment that that trigger is pulled, that's all he needs.
Yeah. And the challenge that's frustrating is, while I understand, guys like Massey who, I get it. I don't necessarily hold it against him for being opposed to, to me, he's at least principled, right? He sticks with what he's always believed in. And I disagree with him on things, but I get, the concern about a president, committing an act of war without, going to Congress. The problem is, and anybody who's got common sense is going to see this. If you go tell the Congress what you intend to do, you are basically tipping your hat to the enemy. And from a tactical standpoint, that's a terrible idea. You don't want to give away, it's like the setting red lines and then not following through with them, or giving a date of when you intend to pull out, like what Biden did with Afghanistan. All of those types of moves are really, really bad in terms of military strategy or tactics. I mean, you've got to be able to, keep things classified and keep things, hidden until you're ready to act. And, so I think Trump's got smart people around him, and I hope that they will, in fact, have the opportunity to take out the Iranian Islamic Republic government.
I'm with General Jack King. Jack King on Fox News. I'm telling you now, the man's gone. This is the opportunity.
Yeah.
Trump's just getting in position.
I agree.
To do it, and the reality is that Iran has been responsible or had some type of involvement in every terrorist attack against the United States in the last 50 years. That is the bottom line. That they need to be taken out. Let the son of the original Shah get back in there, take the country over, support him, and get the country back to being the great place it was 60 years ago.
Yeah, I put Troll's comment up here. Airborne Rangers lead the way.
All the way and then some. Thank you, brother.
That's right. Well, it has been a great show, and a lot of great comments, and I really appreciate you coming on here. Let me close this out in prayer. Heavenly Father, I just thank you, Lord, for Barry and for just his service to this country, Lord, in more ways than one. Lord, we thank you for even the trials that we deal with in our lives, Lord, and we pray that you help us to always learn everything that you want us to learn from them. And we do pray, Lord, for our nation. We pray for its leadership. We pray, God, for the wisdom with our leaders. We pray for the people of Iran and the people of Venezuela as well, Lord. We ask that you would bring freedom and liberty to the world, that you would set people free from tyrannical governments. And Lord, we pray for prosperity for our nation. and that your light would shine again strongly in the hearts of all Americans. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
With that, folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight. God bless you, and we look forward to talking again next week. Have a good one.
Thanks, Nate. God bless you.
Thank you.
Raise some Cain. You gotta raise some Cain. In the heartland where the faith runs strong, we've seen the shadows growing long. Watch those around us be deceived. Yeah, the fight is at our doors, no matter who we believe. Corruption, lawless day and night, we'll speak the truth into the light. We'll bring the battle, heed the call, watch the whole thing fall. We gotta raise some Cain, show the lies, break some chains and make things right. Feel the power, be the change, time is now. We gotta raise some Cain.